So one of the things that I really like to recommend to people, and nobody wants their kid to be driving around in an unreliable car, but to the extent that you can find something older, less expensive, that, maybe if it gets wrecked, you don't really care if it gets fixed. Let the kid drive around with the dent in the bumper, as a reminder to do better next time. You can do that and carry the car with liability only and not carry that collision and comprehensive. That can drastically reduce the cost.
Absolutely, Christy, and especially if you guys have emergency funds set aside that if the car is in a wreck um, and is total, right? And your
Right.
child's at fault, then you actually have some means to put down for another vehicle, for
Right.
example.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good measure of thumb, don't you think? Like where it's gives you that
Absolutely.
peace of mind. You can keep the insurance costs down, but you know that you have a plan B if there were to be a bad accident.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that is the flip side of that coin, right? If you're not carrying collision and your child's at fault in the accident, you got to be prepared to walk away from that car if it's totaled. So,
Absolutely.
um,
And I've
you
seen
need a
so
rainy
many
day
of
fund.
those. Yeah, I've seen so many of that happen, Christy, because the cost is a lot, you know.
Yeah.
So I've seen some customer choose to do the liability only. But because they care about their child and they want to make sure they put him in a decent car that's not going to break down at the red light, and so they
Right.
spend
Yeah.
a good 10, $15,000 on that vehicle. So that's going to be a harder decision, right?
Yep.
So
For sure.
unless you have the means to do it, you might want to just, you might have to pay for that full coverage that will cover the car if you
Yeah.
need it.
I usually recommend if it's a vehicle around about 5,000 or less, really, that's where I would really start saying, let's think about not carrying collision on this car. I mean,
Right.
that's my personal benchmark. Someone else's might be higher or lower, but that's kind of the way I think about it.
Right, right. What about having them getting their own insurance?
Yeah, that's definitely another way to go about it. Um,
But
you
maybe not for
know,
like high school when they're in high school, right? Like
well,
maybe
with
even when they're out at like in college or something.
Right, right. At some point there I typically find there's kind of a tipping point where it does become less expensive to take the child off of the parent policy. It's not going to be when they first start driving and they have 0 months driving experience. But
No.
once they've got a couple of years under their belt and they're getting more like 21, 22, they're that's a good time to look at it and see if I take them off, put them on their own policy, even if I'm still paying for it, I it does 2 things, right? So it might help save you money, but it also separates your liability from the child's liability. So that's another nice thing for a parent who might be considering, whether their child is the best driver in the world or
You're
not.
right.